Hello again, it's Bev. Right, I wanted to talk today about some advice that I'm sure we've all heard that I think has some merit, but I always think it's a little bit dangerous to have any absolutes. And that bit of advice is that you shouldn't care what other people think about you. You've probably heard the saying, what other people think of you is none of your business. And on the surface, it sounds like a really, really sound quote, a really good piece of advice, right? And I'm sure I've said it, and there are definitely situations and circumstances where I would wholeheartedly agree that what other people think of you is none of your business. And we absolutely shouldn't get hung up on worrying about what people think about us if it's going to potentially stop us from living our life to the full. I think it's a really dangerous bit of advice if it's taken literally. And I wanted to share some of my thoughts on why I think, you know, not caring what other people think of you is sometimes just going to really not be the right thing. So whilst I completely believe that people pleasing is not good, that adapting your dreams and your desires because you're scared about what other people might think of those dreams and desires is completely wrong. I think we should absolutely stand firm in our own convictions. But there are times when I really do care what people think about me, and I also really do care what other people think. And I think there are, as I say, a few scenarios, a few situations where I just think this advice of not caring is flawed. Now, I know I've said many, many times since I sort of turned 50 upwards, especially since I kind of reached menopause, I care so much less about what people think about me. And to an extent, that's true. I don't really care about the opinions of people who have no meaning in my life. So when I get, thankfully I haven't had many, but I get the odd negative comment on these videos, or if I've had a few negative comments on other social media platforms, does it sting? Yeah, it does. But does it affect me the way it used to? Would I change what I need to say or what I want to say on the strength of that? No, I wouldn't anymore, because I really don't care that much about the opinions of strangers, the opinions of people who don't know me personally. I really don't care what they think of me. I don't care too much these days if I've got something like doing this YouTube channel. I've got a friend who made a bit of a scathing comment. I don't think she meant it to be scathing, but she made a bit of a scathing comment about the fact that I record myself for YouTube. That didn't really bother me either. And I really don't care what people think about the things that I am doing, you know, that make me happy. So let's get on to the reasons that I think it's a dangerous bit of advice. And the first one is to say, I don't care what people think, doesn't work for me when it's people whose opinions I value. And, you know, relationships are built on communication and mutual respect for one another. I can't imagine disregarding my husband's opinion in everything and saying, I don't care what you think, or I don't care what you think of me, because actually I care deeply about what he thinks about me, and I care deeply about what he thinks. And I know that he cares about what I think of him and the things that he says and does. And the same applies to my family and close friends and people that are dear to me, whose opinions I value. Now, that's not to say that even with close friends and family, I would take their thoughts to override my own if there was a contradiction or a conflict there. I'm not saying we shouldn't stand our ground, and I'm not saying that we should be people pleasers, but I think we should care about what the people closest to us think. We should at least respect their opinion enough to want to hear it and to have a discussion about it. And I do care if, you know, if I wear a certain thing and Mark doesn't particularly like it. Would it necessarily stop me wearing it if I was adamant and it meant that much to me? Probably not, because I'm quite an independent person. But if I knew that I was doing something, wearing something, saying something that he fundamentally, you know, didn't like, yes, I would care about that, and I would want to try and accommodate his wants and needs as well as my own. Not over mine, but as well as mine. And that's about compromise, isn't it, in any relationship? So that's the first thing that I think is really important when we talk about not caring what people think. I think it is really important to care about what the people closest to you think. The second time that I think it's bad advice to not care what people think about you is when we disregard the impact that our behaviour and actions have on other people. I've certainly worked with people in the past who have been of the opinion that they are the way they are, and you can either like it or lump it, and they're not going to change. It's just the way they are, and they don't actually care about the impact that their actions has on other people. And the truth is, we're not isolated. We don't live in isolation. We live in a community. We live in a society where there has to be a certain amount of synergy, and we have to have a certain amount of tolerance to be able to live in harmony. And when you get somebody who kind of doesn't care what anybody else thinks, the danger there is that they don't care about other people at all, and therefore they may say things or do things that are hurtful or harmful to others. A simple example of this is, you know, we love our camper van, but if we just took our camper van out and parked wherever we wanted and, you know, emptied our toilet cassette into the bushes wherever we wanted, if we just left litter lying around wherever we'd been, if we played music really, really loud from the van at all hours of the day, well, we could say, well, I don't care what anybody else thinks of me. But actually, that's so disrespectful, and our actions and our behaviours have an impact on other people. So that this idea of not caring what other people think, well, no, we live in a society where we have to care about what other people think of us. Otherwise, if we don't, we run the risk of having no respect for other people whatsoever, not caring about how they feel or the impact that we're having on how they feel. And that to me is fundamentally wrong. And I think there's this, I don't want to get all political about it, and freedom of speech and, you know, human rights and all the rest of it. We should have freedom of speech, but freedom of speech isn't the same as being offensive or hurtful for the sake of it. And I think when we have an attitude of I don't care what other people think, we're in danger of saying I don't care about the impact I have on other people. I don't care if I hurt them. I don't care if I cause harm to them. I don't care if I make their lives unpleasant. It's all about me, me, me. And for me, that is fundamentally wrong. In a society where we all have to muddle along together, I think it's really important that we do care about the impact that we have on other people. And the third thing, I think we need to be very careful about this, I don't care what people think of me. Whether we like it or not, reputation is important. And people will form opinions about us that can have an impact on the opportunities that open up to us. They can have an impact on, you know, basically on what we can get for ourselves out of the world. And that in a way is kind of a little bit selfish, I guess, because if I don't care what anybody else thinks about me, and therefore I don't consider the impact that I'm having on them or I don't consider the impact I'm having on their feelings, etc., then actually that's going to backfire on me to an extent, potentially, because I'm sure you've been in situations where maybe you've had to complain about something, or maybe you've wanted to negotiate a deal in some way. Maybe it's buying a car or negotiating a house. When we are thoughtful about how we're perceived, and when we try and project ourselves in a good light, if you like, we're much more likely to be liked. We're much more likely to get a good outcome from it, because likability, whether we like it or not, likability is an important factor. You know, I think if you've ever worked in customer services or retail or anything like that, you will know that if somebody approaches you and they're friendly and polite and likable, and they care about the impact that they're going to have on you, you are more likely to give them a better service. So if you're the person wanting good customer service or wanting to get a good deal, but you have the opinion that I don't care if people like me or not, I don't care what people think, then the chances are you're not going to get as good a deal. So it just makes common sense, practical sense, to try to be likable. Now, what I would say in all of this is not the same as being a pushover, a walkover, about being a people pleaser or a doormat. That is not what I'm saying at all. And I definitely don't believe that we should sacrifice what's really important to us because we're too scared to not be liked. That's not what I'm saying at all. And in certain circumstances, you know, what other people think of you is none of your business is a really sound piece of advice if worrying about what other people think about you is holding you back.
So one of the other reasons that I think we need to care about what people think of us is because I wholeheartedly believe that you can't read the label from inside the jar. We have blind spots about ourselves. The old Johari window, if you've ever seen the Johari window model, talks about the different sort of personalities, the bits that people see, the bits that you hide from people, but there is also a bit of our personality that is hidden from us that we can't see. And sometimes we need the opinions of others to open up those blind spots to us. We can't read the label from inside the jar. We're too close sometimes. And not all criticism is bad. You know, some criticism and some feedback can be really, really helpful, especially in helping us to kind of remove those blind spots, because we want to, I think most of us want to be the best person we can be. And we may have traits, character traits, personality traits, behavioural traits that we're not even aware of that can be damaging. And the only way sometimes we can find out about those is by having other people give us feedback and tell us about them. And if we don't care about what anybody else thinks, then we're not going to be open to that feedback. Now, I think there's a big difference here between constructive criticism and hate. You know, at the end of the day, if somebody's just being judgmental and picky, that's not the same thing. But, you know, coaching, for example, is a great tool for helping you read that label, because a coach can help you to see what you're projecting out there. And I think it's really important that we have those blind spots revealed to us, otherwise we can continue to be doing things and behaving in ways that are hurtful to others. So that's another situation to not live by the I don't care what anybody thinks of me rule. I certainly believe that life is too short to worry about insignificant people and what they think of us. But I also think that life has to be lived in harmony with the people around us. And sometimes that means that we do have to think about the impact that we have on others. Let me know what your thoughts are in the comments, because I genuinely do care about what you think and I'd love to hear it. If you've enjoyed this, do consider giving me a like and maybe hit subscribe so you don't miss future episodes. Talk to you again soon. Take care.